Hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ, and I am your host, DBJ, and I'm also a collaborator on many projects. And this project here, Level Up Advanced 5th Edition, was a great project. I was able to give my 2 cents in. And so we're going to do a little overview and especially dive into what contribution I gave to this project itself, here from N-World. But first, just a little pause, a little intro, then we'll get into it, all right? So thank you very much. All right, so we're going to get into Level Up Advanced 5th Edition. This came a bit before the heyday, the drama that came about of Hasbro and WotC's own creation. But this is Level Up Advanced 5th Edition, rewritten. The rules that are in the Creative Commons, better known as 5th Edition, were written from the ground up. I was one of approximately, say, 30 contributors in a massive project, and brought in because of my experiences and my enthusiasm for the exploration pillar of fantasy tabletop role-playing. But I'm going to do going to show you a little bit, a number of books. These are hefty books, by the way. This is the Adventurer's Guide, and the Adventurer's Guide is the equivalent of the Player's Handbook. This book is about 656 pages plus, probably. No, camera, don't do this to me. Don't do it. Anyway, this is the Adventurer's Guide. Don't worry, we'll get it a PDF, because apparently it really doesn't want to go in. Again, N-World. This is the Trials and Treasures book. This particular book does have its credits and designers in here. Little hard to point out by both holding it up and putting it out, but my name is in here as well. But yes, this is the Trials and Treasures book. We also have the Monstrous Menagerie, which is if you know who Sly Flourish is, loves this book. It's the equivalent of the Monster Manual. The Trials and Treasures book, I guess you could make that the Dungeon Master's Guide if you had to make an equivalent. There's also a book that was later released, the Dungeon Delver's Guide as well, and an introduction adventure, especially for the rules that are used in that are heavily modified for Level Up Advanced 5th Edition. And this is an introductory adventure. And we also have ourselves let's see if I can open this up here. We also have ourselves a DM screen, narrator screen, and nice artwork here. And of course, I'm going to try to open this up. You won't be able to see all of it. This screen is rather short, but it does have everything you need, including in this game, new rules for fatigue and strife. Fatigue, the physical exhaustion, and then there's a strife for the mental exhaustion, and all the conditions that are a little difficult to remember the details in it off to the right here. But besides all that, we're going to open up a PDF here. Oh, this is my backup camera, and it does not want to act right. Oh, but we're going to open up a PDF to a number of things. And while I go and search for this PDF, I'm going to explain some of the major differences between, or why you would even want to play A5E. Now, A5E is the short term, the acronym that has been used common parlance for Level Up Advanced 5th Edition. You kind of don't want to search for the word level up because it means so many other things. But A5E is a shortened term for that. And matter of fact, we will go to a place known as a5e.tools, and I will show that to you. A5E.tools are the free digital tools for this very game here, and on A5E.tools are the rules. And yes, there is an actual OGL SRD open gaming license, and this is there is a system reference document if you would like to make material for Level Up Advanced 5th edition. And yes, there are many books, of course. Having worked with them, I did upgrade to the leatherette bound style books, and there are so many of them, and lots of errata, if any. But there's all kinds of sources from the different rule books we have, monsters, adventures. You can even sign up for the Gate Pass Gazette, which is the digital and print on demand, I would call it magazine or newsletter, and they offer each issue of the Gate Pass Gazette is like the old classic Dungeon or Dragons magazine, and you really like that. Of course, here's all about the characters, the rules of the game, other useful pages such as guides, references, core rules, designing encounters, monsters, and third-party products, as well as tools and generators, and a blog post, and of course the community. Now, when it comes to the rules, one of the major aspects changes of this game, and it's not just one thing. Like I said, it was written from the ground up, rewritten. Every word, every phrase, every rule was combed over very finely, and but some people really want it narrowed down, and one of those is something known as combat maneuvers. And for martial characters, over 175 combat maneuvers were created so that you could mix, match, and build your martial character so that they are unique, even if every character that is playing the game is a fighter. And those martial maneuvers were turned into martial arts schools, and not martial arts in the classic sense, but basically styles of combat. So you're not picking from an entire list of 175. They are gated, they are organized, and so of course, if you're playing a fighter, you have access to all of the schools. But characters like monks and rangers, and there's a character class martial instead of the paladin. It's called the herald. The schools that you get to pick from are limited, but they are still numerous. And as you pick each combat style, so we have rules, combat maneuvers, and there are these like different martial styles. You begin with, of course, a first level or first circle or first rank ability, and of course you can't pick the second rank unless you have the first rank. So, and each of them have very descriptive names like Adamant Mountain, Arcane Knight, Beast Unity, Biting Zephyr, Mirror's Glint, Mist and Shade, Razor's Edge, Sanguine Knot, and so on and so forth. They're pretty flavorful titles there. So I've described the martial classes and those capabilities as being similar to a 1/4 level spellcaster. So you will have a stat known as exertion, and you use those points to spend to use your martial maneuvers. And of course, once your exertion is done, of course you can't use them. You have to have a short or long rest to regain those points back to use those martial maneuvers as you see fit. And let's see, no here. I'm gonna go for the PDF here and try to get the call up the PDF for for the document that I was able to move in on. A second thing that people really wanted to see for an advanced version of 5th edition was um, they really wanted to see to have how do I describe this? They wanted more lethality. 5th edition itself seems to be, for some people, seems to be too much of a hero game, and so they wanted a little bit more lethality. And uh, towards that regard, um, individuals wanted something so that it really felt like the characters were attempting to engage in the world and make it seem a bit more dangerous, maybe make it feel like there is an actual threat no matter what level you were at. And so to that end, fatigue and strife were created, as well as supply and havens. So at every level, from first all the way to 20th level and beyond, in level up 5th edition, characters are only able to regain their resources if they have the supply necessary to do so and a safe haven to do it in. Without those combinations, there's limitations, or maybe even just preventing your ability to regain things like hit points, spell levels, your and other resources, that exertion that you wanted. Now, this is the cover of the basic level up 5th edition Trials and Treasures, and that is the one that I was able to that when the 30 plus people that worked on this project were brought together. I was brought on it because of I love exploration, and I always felt like the exploration pillar was one in which it was a bit ignored. It felt to me, I always make the comment that it feels like players are playing on a green screen, that yes, there's a lot of things happening in the background, but when the players, when push comes to shove, the players always seem like they're standing on flat ground with with just basically a giant green screen in the background, because many times the environment doesn't have any effect on combat or exploration or discovery and it really doesn't become a threat. Yes, there's lots of words to describe it, but mechanically it doesn't really have any. This is my name here. Just went to the credits. Look at the number of designers that were part of it, and additional designers that had to put their 2 cents in, of course. Mike Myler and others from N-World, and of course the publisher Russ Morrissey from N-World. So happy that I was included with this. I was requested to join this group, and of course it behooved me to say yes, although I have to admit that I was more trouble for them than they were for me, so I really appreciated that. But yeah, this is a Trials and Treasures, and under Trials and Treasures, like the Dungeon Master's Guide, their Level Up 5th edition really has embraced the exploration pillar, and to that regard, there was even an inclusion where, okay, come on, really, screen, really, we're gonna do this today? There was an inclusion of, that was really bizarre, it's been doing that. There was an inclusion of making exploration feel special, and to make that part of the game. And so to that end, what we really tried to do is ensure, let's go to the table of contents here. What we really wanted to ensure is that during a journey, not only did it feel special, but everybody had something to do. And so they together we created essentially journey activities. So every player in the party can choose an activity that they would like to be part of, and then during that process, maybe make some additional discoveries while they're there. So let's see what this is. So there are journey activities, and during journey activities, while adventuring, um, there are. I keep using the word discoveries, and the reason for why I'm using the word discovery is because too often adventuring, too often in terms of oh, nope, there we go. Uh, too often when it comes to journeys in classic, or I guess you could say modern gaming, it actually feels like a time sink, right? There's really no upside to traveling. It's all downside. It's all random encounters, usually monsters, and dwindling your resources. And there usually isn't very much of an upside to having a journey, a long exploration, traveling from leagues across uncharted territory. And we really wanted to make sure that the journey itself was the adventure, that players would want to engage in the exploration pillar, simply by virtue of being happy to be out there in the uncharted, unknown regions. So I'm going to expand this a little bit bigger here. And these are journey roles, and then I'll talk to you about what discoveries are. Now, the reason why players would even want to engage in journey activities is, again, when players suffer from fatigue and strife, which is fatigue is the physical exhaustion and strife is the mental exhaustion, separated from the original 5th edition exhaustion, now called fatigue, and the mental exhaustion. Although 5th edition did have, I guess you could call that, sanity rules. It's very minor, tucked in the back, but we wanted to bring that far forward and bring that into the forefront. So yes, when you're traveling, if you don't have a safe haven, and a safe haven doesn't necessarily mean you have to be in an inn or a tavern. Essentially, a safe haven must be a safe place for you to rest. In other words, you can't do a 5-minute workday and rest outside the dragon's lair. It's not safe right there. So you're going to need to find a safe haven, a comfortable place to stay, or create one. Yes, player characters, especially rangers or characters that have skills, some really great survival skills, can create a safe haven in the wilderness. But also, along with having a safe haven, you're going to need supply, and supply is a general term for food, clothing, nutrients, song. Basically, I mean, it could be poems and whatnot, and all supply is basically a generalized term for all the things you need to keep your spirits high, keep your body healthy, and keep your mind intact when you're traveling. And of course, this is modified by your character's statistic, right? A character with a high constitution score can travel for days and days, whereas someone with a weaker constitution score may not be. But also, it's about mental exhaustion as well. Loneliness, hopelessness, being lost, stress, and danger can also have an effect on you as well. So characters who are intelligent, have high wisdom scores and whatnot, even if they are lost and even if they are suffering, may have a higher propensity to say, hey, let's keep moving on. Whereas those with those lower mental scores may want to just give up. So in short, here's some of the roles a player can do, activities when journeying, such as befriend animal, busk. Yes, you can perform on the side of the road for people. There's also someone may want to be the cook. There's also, you may want to cover your tracks, gather components, hunt and gather. There's also entertain, meaning entertaining for your party, keeping their spirits up high. There's gossip, praying. You could be a scout, harvest, rob, or track. Yes, you can rob people on the road as a journey activity. And what I love about these And the reason why they are here is that, for example, if we take the prey activity, uh, yes, there are skill checks involved, and sure, if you fail, then the gods do not listen to you. But if there's a success, then the adventurer receives a blessing for each day spent doing this journey activity, gaining an expertise die on the next ability check they make in this region, which means they may gain some insight into the place. And if they get a critical success, the entire party gains an expertise die on their next ability checks made in this region. And the gods lead the adventurer to a boon or discovery. So capital B for boon and capital D for discovery are things that players may come across when traveling. In other words, it's not just a time sink, it's not just a resource drain, but you can actually gain a boon along the way. And it might be something as simple as finding a mythological stream of golden fluid that can heal your wounds, or a blessed glen in the middle of a horrible dead forest or something. You may meet travelers along the way, or heck, may even just find an abandoned campsite and someone has dug a small pit and thrown some gold into it. There's all kinds of discoveries that you may find, including like if you do the befriend animal journey activity. Your outdoor types may find that there's a small animal or a wolf, or heck, even a migrating flock of birds that you follow that may lead you to other discoveries along the way, and those are really cool. Also, there are plenty of random tables if you'd like to roll on them, and the random tables are set up by tier level, tier 0 all the way to tier 4. Tier 0, like 0 level humans, all the way up to tier 4, depending on where you're at. And when rolling on yes, they are D100 tables. When rolling on the tables, sometimes you might see monster. Of course, you get it. Either monster encounters. Turn a corner, there's a monster. Even though I don't suggest that you do it that way, introduce it that way. But yes, there are monsters. But there's also exploration encounters as well as social encounters. So when you are rolling for random encounters, remember the word encounter is not spelled with the words monster or a combat, right? You may come across anything from like a massive crevice in the ground, or a volcanic region, or flowing lava, or geysers, or any kind of thing that's an environmental hazard. And remember, those environmental features, and they don't necessarily need to be hazards. It could be like I said, you could come upon a glen, and it might be the best place for you guys to rest and recover in a place that's very horrifying. For those who don't know, in the game, there's tier level 1 through 4 for player characters, essentially dividing 20 levels between the 4 tiers. And of course, at level tier 4, you're definitely in like hellscapes and dragons and all the most powerful creatures that you could encounter. But even at the lower levels, there are some pretty dangerous things that you may encounter. But remember, an encounter doesn't necessarily translate to combat. So I really appreciate that. Also, something that I really appreciated and really love about having worked with N-World was not just, and I'm going to page through a ton of these. These are 2-page spreads. So right here begins the regions portion of it, and this is called Blasted Badlands. And what happens is, what you're going to do is the players are going to pick their activity when traveling, and then the narrator, the game master, the dungeon master, whoever, is going to then adjudicate it based on the random, or maybe not so random, encounters that they may engage in. And for example, if the players want to busk, basically entertaining passersby, you might not want to do that in a blasted hellscape, right? But you would want to do that on like the King's Road or someplace like that. So there are modifiers to some of the skills, and none of the activities that the players can engage in are character class specific. So yes, wizards and clerics and rogues can absolutely mix and match. The warrior classes and the spellcasting classes can perform any journey activity as long as they have. Well, heck, even if you don't have the skill, you're along for the journey. We don't care, wizard. It's your turn to be the scout, or it's your turn to be to stay up late and keep watch, right? And so those are things that the players can do. So I'm going to page through these. We have the Country Shire, Feywood, Fiery Hellscape, Flowing River, the Frozen Wastes, Haunted Lands, Lofty Mountains, the Open Road, Parched Sands. And mind you, it is also suggested that for your unique setting, you can mix and match these at any time. So an example would be, maybe you want to roll, as Sly Flourish has suggested, roll twice on the encounter chart and then mix and match those things. So even if you roll two, I don't know, Winter Wolves and Fire Giants, okay, then you can come up with the context of why they are even there and what do the players see. Do the players see steam rising from the frozen tundra from miles away? Do they hear the sounds of growls and barking and howls? And when they get closer, they realize that those aren't just adventurers, those are damn giants or whatever. Maybe the Winter Wolves are picking at the carcass of a dead fire giant while another one has crawled away with a long, a mile and a half blood trail before it dies off frozen in the wilderness or something. So whatever. We have the Restless Sea, we have Rolling Grasslands. Yes, some of these places are a little safer than others, and some will lend themselves to far more social and or environmental locations more than monsters. But yep, Tangled Forest and the Underland Realm, Unrelenting Marsh, Urban Township, War-Torn Kingdom, and then also rules for creating your own region. And then beyond that, and of course Holden Shire, that is the, let's see if I can put this back out here. It's the 80 page, nope, 120 pages introductory adventure that teaches you, basically takes you through what does it mean to use the journey rules, how do we apply and how do we use supply in the game in order for characters to gain their short rests and long rests. And like I mentioned before, boons and discoveries are some of the good things that can come out of going through a journey. And doing such means that the players could come across everything from allies to magic items to all kinds of things. Here's a random table for social encounters, travel scenery, and descriptors in here just to add some extra flavor and uniqueness. And then we have exploration challenges. Now, in Level Up 5th Edition, exploration challenges are like monster encounters, except there's no monsters. And so that means, because let's be honest, Fantasy D20 is just rolling a D20 and adding or subtracting some modifiers, usually adding. And you have to meet or beat a score. Well, monsters are the exact same thing, except we just have a little more detail. We call it armor class, we call them hit points, we call it damage potential. But here we have page upon page of exploration challenges, which means that instead of using your combat modifiers, you're going to be using your skill modifiers to overcome some of these exploration challenges. And yes, it is heavily suggested, or rather even enthusiastically desired, that players use unique abilities to overcome exploration challenges. So unlike fighting a half dozen ogres, if a volcano decides to erupt, you can't hit the volcano with your sword to stop it from erupting, but you sure can get hurt by it. And so getting through these regions is probably your best bet, but also finding shelter, using magic, and some other boons and discoveries you may have found along the way, such as a safe place to hide while you're being pelted by fiery embers and liquefied earth that is spilling down the side of the mountain or erupting and falling from the sky like flaming meteorites or something like that. And there's many of these in here. This also means that the players have to work together, so there are rules for having success and failure and engaging in group checks. So, and deciding if the group wants to act as a whole. So, for example, you may have a character who's very experienced and highly skilled to go from A to B, but if they're acting as a group, that may be good for you, but that also means you might be slowing yourself down, but using your expertise to guide others who aren't as good to get across such a place. And then there's all kinds of things like acid field, blinding, and we're going to go through a lot of these until you get to my favorite. And then I won't hold you guys too much longer after this. Acid fields, blinding blizzard. Oh, by the way, just as an example here, like monsters, under each of these exploration challenges, there is a tier level similar to CR level for these encounters, as well as not only is there a challenge rating and a tier level. For example, an acid field is a second tier terrain. It's a challenge rating of 8 and gives 3,900 experience points, and it also has a DC of 17/15. And so there is experience points for going through environmental and exploration encounters, just like monsters. So it's we really just wanted to embrace that fact. But there's so many of these. Bridge of Stones, Bridge of Sorrow, Choking Smoke, and all of these can be layered upon each other, stacked one after another. You could pick and choose some to make a random table, like pick 4 or 6 of them and apply them to a die. You could also overlay them in combat, right? So if you have a Bridge of Stone, and it's a 0 tier thing, and just, hey, a fast flowing 150 foot wide river is crossable only by a series of slick, unstable stepping stones. The river isn't especially deep, but the current is strong. Any adventurer or mount that falls in is carried 30 feet downstream at the end of each of their turns. And so I've always made the argument that disarming an opponent or knocking opponent prone, in common 5th edition is like, well, it's useless because they can stand up. But my contention is, well, where did you knock them down? So if you disarm someone and they drop their weapon into the stream, or made them drop their mystical rod or wand or their spell book or whatever, or their arcane focus, it's going to be carried 30 feet down the stream. If you knock this person off of the stepping stone, they're going to be carried 30 feet away in addition to you knocking them prone, which I think is great, because then it'll add something to the concept of combat. So your comments showed up. Hey, good morning. Shinobi says I missed the start of the stream, so I'll go back. Hey, you don't have to do that. Hi guys. Hey Drew, what's up? Appreciate you guys being here. Shinobi says, yesterday you were talking about making a world where there is a MacGuffin that keeps the world moving, so this would be great for that. I think so. Yeah. Shinobi says, also wanted to tell you that one of Brandon Sanderson's latest books, The Sunlit Man, has the idea of society moving forward due to an event as well. I think it's more common than a little bit thinking of that, and it also lends itself to the idea of a greater force that constantly keeps moving you adds tension to a thing. It's basically like it's why post-apocalyptic stories are hold people's attention, whether it's like zombie apocalypse or World War III or something. It's because there's always tension in the world. You need food, you need water, you don't know if you can trust people, things like that. And I think that's why post-apocalyptic stories really hold people, especially writers and things like that. But let me page pass to this. All of these are environmental encounters, including, we've discovered that you can turn what would normally be a combat encounter into basically an environmental encounter. So for right here, we have Caught in the Crossfire. And Caught in the Crossfire, we've seen this plenty of times in medieval movies where there's a great battle, there's a battlefield, and there's like arrows and slings and crossbow bolts and spears being thrown across. There's catapult launching and things like that. And so we decided to, and there's many of these in here where it's like, well, you're not really battling people face to face. It's more like the classic line from the movie 300. We will blot out the sun with the number of arrows we will shoot at you, and the response is, then we will fight in the shade. It's basically like that, Caught in the Crossfire. But there's also things for urban adventuring, like collapsing roof or counterfeit goods, because there's even social encounters as well. Cursed waterway, cursed temple, dark alleys. And there's even little intricate things in here. Sorry, let me go back to dark alleys, right? So dark alleys is a first tier urban encounter. Is a challenge rating 3, 700 experience points. Area is local, because there's an actual area in this where it'll say something like, how much does this area take up? Whether it's by like leagues, or is it just a few hundred feet? Is it just an immediate area? Like, can you avoid this if you really wanted to? Or can you just walk around it? Or, is it difficult to navigate it? So this one just says local 1 hour. Shadows seem to cling to every corner. Eyes stare from behind hidden barriers. Innocents scurry away from the light. Petty crime is the method of survival here, and anyone unable to adapt or blend in will suffer for it. The party needs to traverse this area of the city in order to reach their destination, but it seems that no matter where they turn, that eyes are watching them from the shadows, equal parts inquisitive and fearful. And then there's group checks, possible solutions. And of course, common sense overrides all of the die rolls, right? But, there's critical failure, where the adventurers are hassled by a guard squad, a gang of 6 criminals, bandits or thugs, depending on the locale, confront the party, or the identities and locations are leaked to their enemies. And that's from a critical failure, And that's if, players are loud, they're carrying like gold, they look like they are hardy adventurers. Somebody might want to buy that information. But there's also critical success would be roll on the boons and discoveries table. Alternatively, the adventurers acquire a reliable connection to a local NPC. And so a lot of that is through here. The boons and discoveries tables do have things like a social, like an NPC. Maybe there's a small one-use semi-magical item or something. It could be gold. It could be a location that is, again, safe and whatnot. But this is my favorite here. Why do I think this is my favorite? Is because I wrote it. So, like I said, I was doing this to talk about some of the things I got to engage in. This is a divine war, and I'm so happy they included this in here. It's so fun. This is a tier 4 supernatural encounter, challenge rating 20, 25,000 experience points, with the DCs being 23, sometimes mitigated down to 18, depending on what you do. And I will read. The skies rain blood, and bolts of necrotic lightning strike the earth as celestials and fiends clash overhead in a battle of truly epic proportions, filling the sky with divine violence. Swarms of angels trace blinding radiance as demons and devils spout hellish flames in pursuit, and for every lance of pure light cast down onto the conflict from the clouds above, there is a swarm of darkness that rises up to consume it. And we have, in fantasy gaming, especially at the top levels, we've always heard about the battle, the eternal battle between the Celestials and the Fiends. Yes, the Blood War is specific to Dungeons & Dragons, but that's something that I think we've all thought about. But I felt like it wasn't encompassed, described as a thing that has transformed the environment itself. That it wouldn't just be 3 demons or fiends or something on one side and maybe 1 or 2 celestials on the other side. I'm talking waves and waves of these damn things. And so there's a D8 table for random things that may strike the player characters as they travel through here. And there's an effect type. Let's go to a single page and increase the size of this. There we go. Supernatural. Ugh. So under this Divine War, this is off to the right here. Dense fog, no big deal, but a Divine War right next to it. Ooh. But anyway, there are divine interventions. So every hour, the effect of so many extraplanar beings unleashing their power in such close proximity has an unintended impact that falls upon the party. Each adventurer rolls a d20, 1d20, and whoever has the lowest roll becomes the target of this effect. When there is a tie, the point in space between the two is targeted instead. Roll a d8 and refer to the Divine Interventions table, which would, if you opened up the book, would be to the right. There are also magical effects. Divine Interventions are magical effects. Using Dispel Magic on the effects of a Divine Intervention requires a spell casting ability check. Again, the DC is also already listed. 23 or 18. You'll see why it's 18. On a failed check, the spellcaster becomes a target of another Divine Intervention the next round. Yeah, you try to dispel that stuff, you're going to be a target as well. And then, of course, there's Realizing Danger. Any adventurer that makes an Arcana or Religion check realizes the less obvious dangers of being so close to this conflict and how the clash of divine forces manifests strange effects on the environment nearby. And so, not going to go through all of these, but you'll understand what they sound like or mean and how dangerous they would be. We have, and they are, so the effect type next to it will either be fiendish, celestial, or like neutral. And then there's an effect like Blood Rain, the Fallen, Harmful Blast. I kind of like this one because I wrote it. Someone else did the editing on this, so there are some words and features in here that I wasn't specific with. But under the Fallen, the blazing corpse of a slain celestial plummets to the ground, landing in a square adjacent to the target. And so, and then of course, like Blood Rain, crimson rain laced with negative energy falls in a 60-foot radius around the target, and so on and so forth. It's pretty dangerous. Harmful Blast, Restorative Ray, Stunning Utterance, Sunburst. These are celestial effects as well. Lethal Utterance and Exsanguinating Horror. 2 of the divine combatants from above swoop down amidst a furious duel, soaring past the targets. Creatures able to see witness the unfiltered purity and depravity of celestials and fiends sliced open in a gruesome display. Each creature in a 30-foot radius, including the target, makes a wisdom saving throw, becoming frightened for 1 minute on a failure. At the end of every round, a frightened creature repeats the saving throw, taking 22 or 4d10 psychic damage on a failure, or ending the effect on itself on a success. Lethal Utterance. The target clearly hears either a fiend utter a prayer or a celestial scream or curse. If the target has 100 hit points or fewer, it dies. If it has more than 100 hit points, it takes 50 hit points of damage. Brutal. Absolutely brutal. But anyway, yeah, that's just an example of some of the thing. And yes, am I pointing out something that I wrote? Yes, but I was with a group of 3 other individuals when we were working on the Trials and Treasures book, and so those were some things that we were in here. But there's a lot of things in here. Enchanted Windmill. Here's another one. Endless Plummet. Yes, it could be completely endless if you'd like to make it that way. Falling Nets, Fey Glade, flimsy bridge. You gotta have a flimsy rope bridge. There's nothing both engaging and tropish that is nothing more than a flimsy rope bridge. You gotta have the flimsy rope bridge. Of course, there's flash floods and flooding, which a flash flood is a little bit different than just a plain old flood, but you get the point. Forested hills, so on and so forth. Hailstorms, hail deluge, God corpse. You got to have a dead god and walk around its body, going into some of its open orifices. Although that assumes that it looks humanoid. Although I guess even if it's not humanoid, it probably have an orifice. Don't go in through the outdoor. Hallowed ground, haze, hellscapes, horror, frost, killing clouds, and such. And there's more and more and more of these. Some very simple, others very mundane, others arcane. Rock falls and quicksand and rolling spheres. Indiana Jones, anyone? Rot grubs, sandstorms, etc., etc., etc. So there's also a category here in creating your own exploration challenges and setting the DCs and the levels and things like that. There's of course diseases as well, plenty of diseases and poisons and so forth, and awarding experience points, adventuring rewards, and of course you have to have magic items and treasure and other kinds of rewards. I'm sorry, but let's get back to you guys. What would a good MacGuffin for the world be? I'm not really sure. Not really sure. Battlestar Galactica is doing that too in space, and since that is based on some more mundane look at the world, I'm not surprised that Sanderson does something similar. Yeah. I think a good I think a good MacGuffin for a world that is constantly being eradicated or destroyed or annihilating behind you. It could be our own hubris. Many post-apocalyptic stories also tell the tale of us making a lot of mistakes and whatnot. So that could be a thing. Also, there could be so it could be a mistake that humanity has done to itself, right? That's always a great one to play with. Something else that could be happening is maybe whatever it is that is destroying everything behind you, and this depends on how much you think it's important for players to have the ability to thwart the thing. So an example is like in a zombie apocalypse, at a certain point, if you go long enough, human beings are going to figure out how to stop the zombies. So do you really want something that the players can fight? If you don't want something that they can fight, then it would definitely have to be something extremely arcane, or like time itself is disappearing, or it's like a creeping darkness from an alien race or something, or a curse or whatever that is unknowable and unseeable. What is the Never-Ending Story had the Nothing, where literally there was nothing was absorbing so much that you couldn't even look at it because it was destroying everything and there was nothing left behind. So right now I'm on A5E.tools. It still says open beta, and one of the reasons why it keeps saying open beta is because more and more people, even third-party individuals, are creating stuff for this, so it keeps getting updated. So you may get into here and go like, oh, here's one of the rule books, right? And then you I don't know, you click like the Adventurer's Guide, and it gets you to the Adventurer's Guide, and of course you can buy the book, and then go into character creation and things like that. But you may want to buy the book, and then you realize, oh, they have another book in here. So yes, it's constantly being updated. And also there's a desire to create like other online tools like character creation and encounter creation and things like that. And that's money intensive and time intensive. So, but yeah, you can buy the book. Yes, you can buy the book. But for advanced, for A5E, Advanced 5th Edition, there's the character walkthrough. And part of this is terms of getting your origin. So there's heritage and culture, and we've seen this in, what is it, Tales from the Valiant? What are the other 5th edition parody games. I know there's more out there. A5E, Black Flag / Tales of the Valiant, Draw Steel MCDM doesn't quite fit, but I guess it is kind of. Anyway, there's plenty of others out there. My mind is just not working because I'm looking at this at the time. But anyway, very, very early on, well over 30 plus years ago, we've already decided that your blood, your genetics don't necessarily account for your culture. And so Level Up 5th edition has gone into that. So yes, you can pick like Dragonborn, Dwarf, Elf, Gnome, Halfling, Human, Orc, Plain, Touched, and whatnot. And yes, you can mix and match these. Be a half and half. That's why there's no half elf, because you could play a half dwarf, half gnome, or a half dragonborn, half orc, or something like that. Yes, strange, but you can do that. Also, your culture, and to enable the game to run in parity to your classic 2014 5th edition, there are cultures in here that are named after, I don't know, the heritage. So you can play an elf that's in a culture of, say, a high elf, or you can play a gnome that's also a tinker gnome, right? Culture. But you could also play a human brought up in as a lone wanderer, or a stoic orc, or a tyrannized population, or something like that. And I want to show you something kind of slick that was done here. If you want to play Dungeons and Dragons and you want a humanistic world, meaning like there are no orcs or elves or gnomes, they're all basically humans, but you want many of the options that the other races or heritages bring to you, they still exist if you take a good look at some of these cultures. So I'm going to go to the tyrannized culture, and under tyrannized culture, many people live in fear of a tyrannical ruler and the militant minions that punish dissent and disobedience. Ooh, my brain's not working. Performative loyalty becomes necessary for survival until even those that oppose the ruler will sometimes betray their neighbors, lest they be dragged away to torture and enslavement. Those who resist the tyrant learn to feign the role of faithful soldier, and the cruel irony is that they often profit from the violent conquest of the regime they loathe. And then there's details in that for listing this on your character. All hail the tyrant, defiant will, saving face, scars of the scourge, and so on. So let me move down here. Here we go. Scars of the Scourge. The tyrant's minions invariably have some preferred method of torment, and you have either learned to survive it or chosen to use the weapon of your oppressors against them. Choose either Scars or Scourge, and then choose one of the following damage types: Acid, Cold, Fire, Force, Lightning, Necrotic, Poison, Psychic, Radiant, or Thunder. Pick one. You have resistance to the chosen damage type, or as a bonus action, you can enhance the next attack you make this turn. If that attack, Scourge lessens after the initial strike, so after you deal the extra damage to a creature, this trait cannot deal extra damage to it during the same combat. And so, sounds kind of odd, especially when you start talking like acid, lightning, necrotic, or something like that. But you never know. It depends on the kind of story you're trying to tell. So yes, you could have a human that has the ability to generate like poison or cold or fire in them to strike back against their enemies, because you will no longer be tyrannized, you will no longer be enslaved or something. And that's something just to make it kind of cool and unique or whatever. Going back to character creation in Level Up Advanced 5th edition, you not only have your heritage and culture, but you also have backgrounds. And here under backgrounds, you have many of your classics: artisan, acolyte, entertainer, exile, outlander. There's also things like a sage, sailor, soldier, urchin. And instead of alignment, we have destinies. I'm going to have you guys pick a destiny in here. We've got like chaos, coming of age, devotion, Dominion, excellence, knowledge, metamorphosis, revenge, underdog, and wealth as destinies. And somebody pop one of those into the chat if you don't mind. Shinobi says, I just made a tyrannized exile minotaur marshal for a campaign I just joined. Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, you want to make a minotaur? Hell yeah, right? And the story involved in that, right? Like, you were a tyrannized exile. Who tyrannized you, and what was that? What was going on with that? DC20, thank you very much there. Yeah, DC20 is another 5th edition parallel. I don't know if you want to call it, yeah, parallel. There's others making games that are non-D20-ish. There are also fantasy heartbreakers out there as well, but yeah. I mean, is for my point, like, is 5th edition a little bit of a heartbreaker? Yes. It actually came out a little bit too early, but because not too many people are talking about it, but there's over 1,300 pages of brand new material, so it's kind of cool. Yeah. Dominion, okay. Daryl says, can you play a low magic A5E game, or is it better to just use another system? Do you want my personal opinion? It's probably better to use another system. Now, I will tell you that the game has been designed for non-magic and low magic use. So, for example, the Ranger class is not based on magic. So, so you can make a Ranger. If you make a base Ranger, you will not have any magical abilities. Also, because the game has fatigue, strife, supply, and havens, that it is. And when you say low magic, and I'm making an assumption here. I apologize because I don't want to make an ass out of me and assumption, but making an assumption. With low magic, it also means that there is that the mundane world is far more. It's still dangerous. So by heavily using fatigue and strife and ensuring that players cannot regain their expended resources without being in a safe place, a haven, capital H, or having supply, capital S, to do so will mean that the players have to be very strategic about their highly rated capabilities in the first place. So normally and let me go to Dominion, by the way. So normally when we're gaming, dang, I'm sorry about that. Normally when we're gaming, players like to go Nova. And you guys know what going Nova means, right? They do a 5-minute workday. They have a combat. They lose some hit points. They cast some spells. They immediately want to take an extended long rest to gain back all their resources to do the same thing over again. And every player wants to use their most powerful capability first in a round, go first in initiative, and wipe out everything. But because 5th edition has a haven and supply necessity, it means that the wizard, the paladin, the fighter, and all the monk is not going to regain all their capabilities if they don't first get to a haven and have supply. And so that also means that you, as a narrator or game master, have other vectors of threat against the players. An example would be if the enemy prevents the players from resting, then the players can't regain their resources. If the enemy steals their supply, then the players can't bed down with food and drink or other supplies for the supply that they need for their needed rest, right? So goblins stealing their food is far more lethal and detrimental to players in A5E than it would be in standard 14, 5th edition 14. I don't know what 24 is bringing, and I kind of really don't care, but whatever. Dominion. An imposter seated on your throne, a land divided by civil strife, a feckless bureaucrat waiting to be gamed. Those with the Dominion destiny look at chaos and see the opportunity. Some seek to return to their hand what is rightfully theirs, but others start with nothing and wish to accumulate influence and power however they may. Through shield and steel or cloak and dagger, you reach out to claim your rightful seat of power or a place in its shadows. The Dominion destiny is as varied as politics itself. Consult with the narrator to come up with ideas for an ambition suitable to the setting and campaign. In A5E, destiny is more proactive than alignment. So all of the destinies listed are things that you, your player, are choosing to move forward with. And so under each of the destinies, there is a place for you to use your inspiration die. So not only can you use inspiration like you would normally use it in 5th edition, there's also something else that you can use it for. So under here, source of inspiration is leadership. You draw inspiration from taking charge and directing what needs to be done. You gain inspiration whenever you lead by example or convince a group of NPCs to act against their own interests in order to complete a difficult task. And then there's some examples, such as settle a vitriolic argument, direct a large number of non-player characters to participate in the completion of a task, or rally a multitude of people to a cause. And then inspiration feature is called studied deliberation. With a level head and measured logic, you objectively determine the best path forward. You may spend your inspiration and a minute's deliberation to determine the results of an upcoming plan of action as the augury spell. So essentially, by taking a minute and using your inspiration, if you have it, and most likely you probably will. If you're playing in my game, you just start out with at least one inspiration, and you can gain and lose them as you go along. You can decide to do something as an augury spell, and it's not even a spell for your character. And guess what? You can pick Dominion as your destiny, and it's not character based. So if you're playing a fighter or a roguish character or a warlock or, well, okay, who doesn't have magic? A marshal or something like that, you can pick Dominion. And mind you, you can come up with what you don't have to be like power hungry to pick the Dominion as your destiny, right? Like maybe you used to be a noble, or you found out that you came from noble blood and the crown belongs to you. And you can also change your destiny after you fulfill your destiny, right? There's also fulfilling your destiny features, which is like a very high level kind of thing. Fulfilling your destiny. And then there's a fulfillment feature, absolute power. And it's not necessarily level based, but they do suggest that, like, if you get, I think it's 13th level, and I haven't checked quite yet. You automatically gain your destiny feature when you get to that level. Otherwise, like, you can fulfill your destiny by level 6 or whatever, level 12 or level 9 or something like that. But absolute power, either through respect or fear, you have become an uncontested ruler, and most simple orders you give are followed without question. You have advantage on checks made to influence your subjects. In addition, you gain the lawful alignment, and you emit a strong lawful aura for the purposes of any feature, spell, or trait that detects or affects lawful creatures. And being lawful as an aura has an effect, like when it comes to like magic items and spells and things like that. It doesn't mean that your character must be lawful alignment, although it does say you do gain the lawful alignment. It doesn't mean that it's permanent, right? But there are some things that have embraced it. Much of that comes from classic 2014 and older editions and things like that. And there's some spells and magic items and things like intelligent swords and whatnot. And here's some the D6 table for some motivations and things: reclamation, justice, power, reform, reprisal, control. And those are just examples, and you can make up your own. But the thing is that, let's say your character by 6th level truly takes the throne, maybe you want to change your destiny. Or maybe someone lied to you and told you were supposed to be on the throne, but they lied. Or you find out during adventuring that your character really doesn't want the throne in the first place. So you could get revenge on the person that lied to you. Maybe your you've done so much damage to the population. Now you've gone towards devotion, and you want to become a devoted, kind leader or something. Or maybe because someone lied to you, now you're dedicated to knowledge, and so you can change your destiny. And then, of course, we have things like adventuring classes and so on. All the classes, and then the subclasses for them. There's equipment. By the way, all of the base classes, when you go up in level and you gain a feature, there are multiple features you can pick from, so that in one game, usually how it's divided is you get 3 options. Usually a combat option, like a martial option, a social option, and an exploration option. Kind of in general, those 3 options as you gain levels, so that in my game may be very social and political. So when you make your character and your character goes up in level, you may want to pick more social, connective aspect character options, whereas someone else may be very martial, lots of monster encounters and things like that. You may want to pick those martial things. Although most likely in my game it'll be more exploration, but that's just me. And under equipment, yes, armor. Yes, there's many more materials you can pick for weapons and armor. Yes, you can sunder shields. You can sacrifice shields. Helmets are important if you want to wear one. Armor can be not only made from different armor types, but you can also have, there's more armor types, there's more materials you can make armor out of, and you can customize things out of materials, fine and masterwork weapons, so that if you want to use something that's non-magical, a little bit low level, like lower level, low magic, I apologize, not low level, low magic, customizing armaments and maintenance on your items. And yes, things can damage your equipment, so that maintenance is important. Sometimes you might need to do maintenance on your items when you're in your haven and you're using your supplies to do so. There's also adventuring gear, lifting and carrying things, spending gold. There's a lot more things you could spend gold on. I personally don't like buying and selling of magic items, but that's just me. Of course, there's smithies and NPC services, of course, enchanting gear, spellcasting services, and strongholds, of course, building strongholds and gaining followers. But I've held you guys far too long. I want to thank you guys so much for being here. I'm going to go to the Level Up Advanced 5th edition website and put that up. And here we go. And then we'll take you guys out of here. I'm going to get to your comments. Oh, this isn't in the right spot. Let's go right here. There we go. By the way, I watched your combat maneuvers video yesterday as a reminder on my way to my game. Oh, thanks. I hope. Listen, I'm a very rambly kind of individual, and I very rarely do much research, and I don't write anything down. So I apologize for the ums, the ahs, the verbal gaps in my verbalisms. Apologize for that. Theon Greyjoy is Dominion, I think. I would agree with that. Yeah, because and a little bit of that, yeah, Dominion is Littlefinger and the Ladder of Chaos to climb. Yeah, I agree. I agree with those completely. I also picked Dominion. Shinobi say, yeah, I also picked Dominion. That's why I selected that. Yeah, and remember, Theon. Could you make the case that Theon changed his Dominion desire along the way, maybe? Or maybe his personality, maybe Dominion didn't change, but his personality changed? I don't know. Littlefinger, definitely Dominion. Hell yeah. Oh, hells yeah. But yeah. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for letting me show this off a little bit. And part of this, of course, is me showing off myself. It's not really a show off. It's just that I have a channel, and I'm also a freelance writer and creator. So I'm just expressing to you guys some of the things that I've been a part of, And so, and I'm proud of being part. Listen, when you get to the point, there's a certain level where, like, when you grab a book with, a leatherette cover, and it's got ribbons in it, and you get to open up the book, and you open it up. Yes, this is the non-upgraded artwork, and you open it up and you go, oh, there's my name. Wow, it's a feeling unlike any others. Oh, dude, don't thank me. Thank you. Shinobi's like, yeah, I've been listening to you for a while. So I, like anyone who ever records themselves, um, it's very unnerving to listen to yourself, right? So I try to be better as a broadcaster, and but I also try to embrace the ADHD that's in my head. You know, I try to be nice. By the way, Daryl, thank you very much for thanking me. Thank you guys for your attention. And also, before we get out of here, I always like to give some background information. So, first of all, if you want to become a publisher of any type and work with people, create yourself a resume. And creating yourself a resume, I don't know if you guys have ever heard this term. Have you ever heard the term, it's like eating an elephant? And what that means ostensibly is that eating an elephant is like eating anything else. You have to do it one bite at a time. So if you are a artist, a writer, a developer of some sort, do it a little bit at a time. And when I say create your resume, I don't mean literally go to a resume creator. What I mean is, if you are a musician, a broadcaster, anyone that's in a creative field, not only should you find a place to put your creative endeavors and leave it there, even if it's your worst stuff. Just do it. The reason why when we watch movies and television shows and we scratch our heads and go, this is bullshit. Like, this is the worst writing we've ever seen. And you wonder why those people get paid a lot of money? Let me explain to you why. It's because they're doing the work. The greatest writers in the work that never write anything will never be aired. Those writers are constantly working. They have dozens of scripts in their back pocket they can pull out. Now, they could all be garbage, but the fact that they have proof that they've produced something is why those writers get hired over and over again, despite the fact that we as consumers go, yeah, no, don't do that ever again. Please put your laptop down and whatnot. Daryl says, I've missed a lot of time. Left D&D in 1990 and a lot of catching up the last year with industry changes. I took a big break between what would be 3rd edition in well past 3.5 Pathfinder and into 4th. And I mean, I knew Pathfinder existed. Then when I got into Pathfinder, 4th edition was already gone, and then they were right into 5th edition. So there was a bit of a break for me. But I'm a big OSR kind of person. I'm a polygamist. Let me put it that way. I like to cheat on my games with other games. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. Yeah, I've been gaming since early '80s. So yeah, I'm a graybeard. I'm an old head. But I will say, lastly, that not only do you want to, whatever your creative endeavors are, put them somewhere where somebody else can find them, or you can point them to it. If you're a dancer, you're a musician, a singer, you are, heck, a martial artist, you're a graphic designer or something like that, take it, put it somewhere. A website, your social media posts, things like that, your Reddit thing, I don't know. Find some place and put your things there. Secondly, be consistent. So when I say be consistent, what I mean is every month, every week, every Saturday, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday or something, if you intend to have an audience, produce something for them so that you're consistent. And as most overnight successes will tell you, it's taken them double-digit years to be an overnight success. The reason for creating this backlog of things is so that when we find a new artist of any type, musician, actor, or whatever, we go, oh, I didn't know they did this thing. And then what happens is people go backwards in their career and then realize, oh, they were in this movie, they were in this television show, I didn't realize that. They were with this music group, I didn't know they were a background singer. And that's usually what happens. You didn't know they were famous till they got famous, and then people tend to go backwards. And so people reached out to me, which is amazing to me, because I am constantly trying to produce something like this show, and then also with writing. My greatest weakness is that I didn't have, at the time I was like, yeah, I got plenty of time. And then I agreed to this shit, and then I was like, oh, I don't have enough time for this. So the best thing you can do when you are someone who is who gets hired for these projects is to be open, honest, and early. Be open about what you can and can't do. Be honest about your capabilities, and if you think something is good or not, or somebody else is good. The product always takes precedence. So if I write 5,000 words and it sucks, then get rid of it. Don't F your feelings. The product always takes precedent. So much better. So much better to do it that way. Monsters Menagerie 2 coming soon to Kickstarter. I did not know that. We didn't even go over to Monsters Menagerie, which is great. Oh, that must be watch Sly Flourish create a level up character. Yeah, Sly Flourish is very bullish about level up 5th edition. I'm paging down the website right now, and there are the books. The Monsters Menagerie is excellent, by the way. Maybe one day I'll go through that. Maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for just being here. I would be here whether you guys were not or not, but I appreciate the company. So yeah, check out Level Up Advanced 5th edition. You can go to the links are down below. So if you go to a5e.tools, you can check out the rules for free. There is an OGL, an open gaming license. There's also an SRD, a system reference document that you can download if you want to produce things for this game. If you are a fan of classic D20 games and you don't want to give money over to the corporate interests, I suggest you engage in DC-20, Tales of the Valiant, and of course, Level Up Advanced 5th edition. Again, at the very top, it was published by N-World. They are the people who make the ENnies, They produce the ENnies, which are the awards, the most famous award for your favorite tabletop role-playing games. And they do give out the ENnie Awards. There is a Discord server for them. They have blog posts, and so you can follow N-World as well. They've been around for 30 years. It's been a long time for them as well. So guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I'm going to put the Level Up 5th edition logo back up here for those while we take ourselves out. Again, if you've been here this long and you've gone longer, please let your friends and family know, or maybe some of your enemies if you don't like them. Please like, share, subscribe, follow, leave notifications, have a discussion or whatnot. Let me know. Let me know down below. I really should promote the Discord server. Maybe I can ask some of the moderators to put in the links to the Discord server and invite people over there. Unfortunately, I'm pretty busy and not able to do that. Give me 3 years and this will be my full-time job. Like I said, I'm making my resume right now, so maybe at that time. But you guys have a great one. Thank you very much for being part of the show. If you're part of the state, sorry that you're up so early. I hope this is your morning mental coffee. For those overseas, thank you very much for being part of the show. We have to do some comparing and contrasting to the places we live and live and grow. So I think that'd be awesome. But anyway, guys, have a great one. Thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Level Up Advanced 5th edition, A5E, for your entertainment. Peace, tranquility. Bye.